Welcome back to Freedom Brigade Nation. Guys, thank you for joining us again. How are you? How's the week been?
Busy, but great.
Yeah.
Busy but great. It's a lot going on in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Um, we've had the Robert Birch Society stirring up the grassroots here about convention estates, which is why we've been talking with Robert Brown and we had Dr. Michael Ferris, who is the founder of Convention Estates, on. And so last week we had Mr. Brown on, and he kind of gave some rebuttals to what Dr. Ferris said. And so I don't want to waste a whole lot of time. I want to get right into this. But can Dr. Ferris, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming back.
Well, it's great to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Well, sure. We felt like it was fair that you were able to give a rebuttal because Dr. Brown directly addressed you
Yeah.
and some of the things that you said. And so we just felt that it was fair to give you a few minutes to give the rebuttal on some of the things that he said. So please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much. Well, there's a lot that he said, and in the time, I thought it would be good just to pick out one historical example and then just talk about who you could trust in this particular situation. The historical example is he claims that James Madison was an opponent of the Article 5 convention process, and he cites, without explaining what he's citing, the debate between Patrick Henry and James Madison at the Virginia Ratification Convention. Now, keep in mind, I'm the founder of Patrick Henry College. So if you want somebody who's a fan of Patrick Henry, I have put my life where my mouth is. Patrick Henry wanted to have a second constitutional convention, not under Article 5, but just a new constitutional convention to adopt a Bill of Rights. But Madison argued we could amend the Constitution after we adopt it. And it was a debate between, do we amend the Constitution, add the Bill of Rights before we approve the Constitution or afterwards? That's what that debate was about. It was not under Article 5. It was not after the Constitution was adopted and there were other things going on. Madison was saying we shouldn't start over from scratch. We'll do the amendments in the first Congress. And that's what he did. He kept his promise and we got the Bill of Rights. There are many other examples of how he twists history or perhaps doesn't understand history. And it kind of boils down to who deserves to be listened to in this debate. Robert Brown is a professional house painter. That's his profession. He's become a spokesman for the John Birch Society, to be sure, but he has no training or credentials in this area. I, on the other hand, have been practicing constitutional law for 49 years. For the last more than 40 for conservative Christian organizations. I was general counsel for Concerned Women for America. I founded the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I was the president of Alliance Defending Freedom. While we did the Jack Phillips case, we were co-counsel of the state of Mississippi in getting Roe versus Wade reversed. I've argued and won 2 cases in the Supreme Court. I led the fight to kill 2 or more, actually 3 UN treaties because they invade the sovereignty of the United States. I was a Republican nominee for Lieutenant Governor of Virginia in 1993, and I was attacked by the mainstream Republicans because I was too much, quote unquote, an extremist, which meant I was pro-life conservative. And so I've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for conservative pro-life Republican candidates through a PAC that I founded after I ran the Lieutenant Governor's race. So I'm good friends with many of your members of Congress from Oklahoma. I have a Republican, conservative, pro-life, pro-Constitution record that's second to none. And I tell you, with all that history, with almost 50 years of work in this arena, this is what the founders gave us, and the founders were right. When the federal government goes beyond its authority, it's up to the states through Article 5 to stop the abuse of power. Brown talks about nullification. We have to remember that is a tactic of the Democratic Party. They invented nullification in the Civil War era as a Democratic maneuver, and we see nullification going on in Washington, D.C. right now, where the grand juries controlled by the Democrats in Washington, D.C., in a pragmatic sense, are refusing to indict people who threatened to kill the president, who assaulted officers. We see nullification going on, right? It's chaos. We're not a party of chaos. We're a Republican Party who wants to preserve the Constitution by using it. And so the federal government keeps changing the Constitution through Supreme Court decisions, through Congress getting away with things. It's time to call a halt to it and not listen to the fear mongering that's going on. It's time to use facts, not fear, and let's do Article 5. Well, Oklahoma's already done it. Let's just not mess with it in Oklahoma. You don't need to deal with this right now. This is an important issue, but you've got other things that are priorities. I would urge you as a party to not engage in this at this point in time.
So I do have one question, and then I don't want to spend a lot of time. I know you've got to get some places to go, but the biggest issue that I'm hearing against Convention of States is that they don't trust what could be done if we call a Convention of States. Could they undo what the Constitution says? Would we actually lose rights? I believe that's one of the that's the biggest pushback I'm seeing.
Sure, that argument can be made about any governmental body. You could lose rights by convening the Oklahoma legislature. You could lose rights by convening a court. You can lose rights by convening Congress. But the answer is, can you realistically do that? And the answer is no, because the rules don't provide for it. And ultimately, there's lots of checks and balances along the way. But the big one is 38 state legislatures in both houses have to ratify anything that comes out of a convention. And to think that we can't get 38, which means only 13 states kill it. One house in the state says no, or one house in the state just refuses to vote, that's a no. It doesn't pass. And so the idea, people put in crazy things in legislatures all the time. And there's checks and balances. It would be a violation of the rule, be outside the call. You could litigate it. You could do all kinds of things. But ultimately, you can't pass something crazy when 38 states have to ratify it. And that fear has been going on for a long time. The debt, when we started this, the national debt, the admitted national debt, was less than $20 trillion. We're now we're getting close to $40 trillion of the admitted debt. And so we keep dragging our feet over this, and that debt is going to kill our children's future, our grandchildren's future. And I've already got 2 great-grandchildren, so my great-grandchildren's future. So it is time that the states use the power of the Constitution. The founders of the John Birch Society agreed with me. They used this to promote the Liberty Amendment. So the John Birch Society not only thinks the founders were wrong in giving us this tool, they also think that the founders of the John Birch Society were wrong. You've got revisionists who seized control of the John Birch Society. They don't know history. They don't know law. And, they may be pretty good house painters, but they don't know constitutional law, and they promote fear with no real knowledge.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. I wanted to give you that chance for a little bit of a rebuttal. But so Oklahoma, Republican Party, the resolution has been submitted this weekend. We'll see what happens with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's been an honor to meet you, by the way. Okay. Well, we had to do that. I see both sides of this argument, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. It should be interesting. Okay, so moving right along, we have Representative Jim Shaw. So he's been on the show before. For those of you, hello, how you doing, Jim? He's been on the show before, you guys. This guy, he has been championing in Oklahoma, and he has stood up with a backbone of steel against the establishment. And that is something that I have seen across the country. Everyone's like, well, you just have to know the system. Well, you have to play the game or you won't get anything done. And Jim has said, I'm not playing the game. I'm still going to get stuff done. It's been amazing.
He does it with such grace. Like, it's really hard to get upset with Jim. He's able to point out the facts. He stays flatlined with it and just says, look, this is what's happening. This is how it is. And he's willing to hear your viewpoint. And it's a nice, refreshing thing, Jim.
Amen. Thank you for that.
So, Jim, do you feel called to this? Do you feel like God is saying, hey, I'm not giving you a choice in this deal?
That's the only reason why I'm here. Uh, uh,
Ditto, my
by,
friend.
by choice, I probably would have ran for the hills a long time ago, but I absolutely was called into this from the Lord. I felt convicted from that from the beginning, a year and a half ago, getting into the race, and now having been through the first year in session, I still feel like He's continuing to call me down, this path and this fight, and I'm not running away from that for sure.
So you have stirred up a little bit of controversy in Oklahoma. We do this well. Remember, we get to have Ryan Walters, and then we have our governor right now cleaning up homeless camps along the side of the road, and that's everyone's all up and upset about that as well. So we like to stir up controversy here and do what's right. And you have started a coalition that is pretty bold. I do want to say, I just want to I want to take a little bit of an excerpt of what you said in your announcement. You said, for too long, the political class has been allowed to dodge, deflect, and sell out the people who put them in office. So tell us in your words, what is this coalition about?
So I branded it the Save Oklahoma plan, because I do believe we are continuing down a path and getting to a point of no return, eventually, that the people of Oklahoma are not in control of their government. That is very clear to me, and it's been very clear, especially in the last 6 months coming out of session.
Hold on one
But
second. So
yeah,
we're the most conservative state in the country, and we are not in control of our government. Guys, we're in trouble. If we're
absolutely
not in
not.
control in Oklahoma, where you're at, you've got to push back as well. That is really scary statement when you really look at what that means. I mean, Oklahoma is considered a flyover conservative state. Like, don't even mess with them. They're not going to let you. And you're saying we don't have control. And I agree with the statement.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, being in session, this first year, the lobby and particularly special interests, right? Because we can define lobbyists in different ways, or PACs, or what have you, but the mainstream lobby and special interests control that building, and they control virtually every outcome in that building. And so for me, the reason why I got into politics and the reason why I'm still here is because of the issues. There are issues that are very important to me, to my district, and to the state of Oklahoma. And we are losing on those issues every single time in the building. So the Save Oklahoma plan is designed to bring together all of the major grassroots groups, which there's 22 that have signed on to the plan so far, and really bring messaging to the rest of the state, excuse me, on these issues, but also empower and strengthen the grassroots to get more and more pressure inside the building, inside the Capitol. That's the only way we win on these issues.
So how are you going to bring, how are you going to apply pressure inside the Capitol?
I mean, it really starts with people being aware that there are issues. I mean, there are policies that we are losing on, and they are important policies for the people of Oklahoma. So there's obviously a lot of people across the state that aren't really aware that some of these fights are happening. And so part of this is informational and bringing awareness to certain issues to people across the state. So that's kind of step number one. Number two is getting the people that are in these grassroots organizations and kind of assisting and helping in other ways to be more involved in the building and putting pressure on their legislator, whether it's a rep or a senator, going into the building, sitting in on committee meetings, sitting in on floor sessions, writing and creating, appointments with your representatives, making sure that that place becomes more afraid of the grassroots than they are afraid of lobby and special interest. If we get to that, if we get to where legislators in that building are more afraid of grassroots, we will start to win on these issues, and that will be transformational across the state.
Across the country.
Absolutely.
If you do it in one state. So I want to talk about you said there are 7 issues that you want the Save Oklahoma plan to focus on. So you've got fight the green energy agenda. You've got prohibit agricultural use of biosolid waste, criminalize hostile foreign ownership of land, mandatory e-verify for all business, end perpetual toll roads, and expose the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. You just took on a giant with that one.
Mhm.
stop discrimination based on vaccination status, and end taxpayer-funded lobbying. And so I am excited about all of those, but you're getting pushback, and I'm getting pushback because the Freedom Brigade signed on to be one of your organizations
Mhm.
um, for the E-Verify. So now, if I understand this correct, E-Verify is a system that just makes sure all of your employees are legal citizens so that we don't have illegal immigrants working, taking jobs that aren't supposed to be there. Am I missing something on that?
In a nutshell, that's exactly what that is. E-Verify has been around, I think, for about 30 or 40 years. The I-9 form has been around for about the same amount of time. But every employer across the country is required to get an I-9 form from every new employee that they hire. And that has your social security number on it, a few details. You put two, identifications along with that, whether it's your driver's license or what have you. But today, the employer, at least in the state of Oklahoma, private employers are not required to validate and verify that the information on that I-9 form is accurate, that the social security number isn't a fake, that you're not using a dead person's social security number or what have you. And so what E-Verify does, which is a free online tool, I mean, immigration's a federal thing, right? And so this is an online tool where all the employer has to do is input that information from the I-9 form, a few pieces of information into E-Verify, and it will cross-check with Social Security Administration and potentially Department of Homeland Security if necessary to make sure that that person is a legal resident of the United States. This is information that the feds already have for everybody. I mean, the feds know your social, they know your employer, they know how much you make down to the penny. Right. And so this is not anything new. It's no new data collection or invasion of privacy. What we need to be focusing on is preventing illegals from gaining employment in the state of Oklahoma at the hiring process. Because if we don't do it at the hiring process, it becomes reactionary. And then we're relying on government and law enforcement to come in and have to fix the problem after the fact.
So why are there people that feel like this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment? If this is what they already have, is there not another way to make sure that the Social Security number, I mean, is valid? This seems like it's kind of the government's been incompetent, so they're saying, well, we're going to have to get more information and keep it in this database. And is there another way to verify that? Because there are people really upset about that. But at the same time, I want to stop illegal immigrants from being comfortable and taking over our country.
Right. And so again, I go back to this doesn't collect any other data that you're not already providing on your I-9 and that the federal government doesn't already have. So we're not expanding any data collection. This is everything that they already have. And the Supreme Court has actually ruled on this. I think it was in 2011. I don't have that number off the top of my head, that this is not an invasion of privacy or a violation of the Fourth Amendment. So it has been ruled at the Supreme Court level and other state courts as well, that this doesn't, violate the Constitution in any way. There are multiple states, maybe close to 10, that have already enacted this across the board for private employers as well. So keep in mind, the state of Oklahoma passed a law in 2007 or 2008 requiring every public employer, every state agency and public employer to use E-Verify. So that's been a requirement for our public workforce for almost 20 years, which makes up approximately 20% of the workforce in the state of Oklahoma. Non-agricultural.
A lot of large private organizations use it as well. When I worked for National Oil Well Varco, when we hired, we used it. And the Supreme Court case was on the form. Did you have a different one that was maybe on E-Verify itself, or are we talking about the case on the form?
Yes, there is an E-Verify case as well. Let me find
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
So the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and I think this is going on
Yes.
across the country as well. So when the Turnpike Authority first came out, do you guys know that they said we're only going to do this for a few years, right? Just like the Social Security card, by the way, was never going to be used for your identification, right? Like we promise we're not really taking this. And so What do they do? The Turnpike Authority is now this big thing. We have millionaires sitting at the top that are, the ones running it, and it's a disgusting way to tax the people yet again. So that throws out the no double taxation. It throws out so many things, and now they are throwing out the toll booths. Now most states have already gone to just the electronic. We're taking a picture. We know where you're going. We're tracking where you're at, and we're just going to charge you as you drive. That is something every state should be pushing back against anyway. The flock cameras are disgusting. They go hand in hand with the Turnpike Authority and what's going on with them charging you just for driving on a road. We pay with our tags. We pay with the sales tax on the vehicle. We pay I use the vehicle as an example of how we are quadruple taxed consistently. It's disgusting. It is not constitutional, and they get away with it because we allow them to. This goes back to what Ben Franklin said. It's a constitutional republic if you can keep it. We've allowed them to tax us all these different ways, and they just lie to us and we buy it. And so I could continue to go into examples of all the ways the government lies to you, but Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, this is such a monster. How do we take it down?
You got to start somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
I know there are groups out there like Pike Off OTA, which also signed on to the Save Oklahoma plan, has been fighting this battle for a long time. And again, part of this effort and this overall plan and movement is to try to provide financial support and resources into these groups that are fighting really good and important fights, and see if we can't move the needle further in the right direction this upcoming session. But yeah, we have to end perpetual toll roads. We have to provide reform and figure out ways to prevent this abuse of power on eminent domain and how they take people's land and what have you, just at the expense of, or all in the spirit of, progress, if you will. But no, it's the Turnpike Authority. There's a lot to do there.
So it's interesting. We've gotten a little bit of pushback because of your last statement. You said, well, we're going to fund these organizations that are fighting these things. And so what's been said to me is, so he's incentivizing them to follow his regime. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really like that. So the Freedom Brigades has not and doesn't plan to accept any money because we don't require it for our part in this thing. And I know that there are several organizations that are like that. So it's not that you incentivize all of them, but it is, you do need money for those that do need it. And so, but it's not an incentivize. It's not like that at all. What's interesting is it'll be, they don't complain too loud when a legislator takes lobbyist money, but they will complain if an organization fighting the machine will take money. That's interesting to me, but
yeah. And to your point, it does take money. It takes some money to fight big money. And I think we've all proven in our own track records within this arena that we can be more efficient and effective with our dollars than the opposition can be most of the time. I mean, we're getting outspent 3, 4, 10 to 1 typically in any race that we're going up against in campaigns or what have you. But it absolutely takes money to get messaging out and to get things moving in our direction. But this is personal funds for me that I felt called and led from the Lord to, that my family and I, agreed to kind of pour into this effort, because it all comes back to the issues. I am very passionate about these issues, and the list of 7, I understand, is just scratching the surface on the dozens to hundreds of issues that we could spend time and resources on. I get that. This is meant to be 7 very conservative, strong policies that the lobby and special interests are actively fighting against at the Capitol. They are fighting these issues very hard, and we are not winning on these issues. But back on the dollars, this was in no way, I think hopefully you would confirm and testify, as well as the other 21 groups that I talked to. I didn't lean in saying, if you do this for me, or I'm going to pay you if you do this, right? This is more of, this is my plan and idea on how to move our state in the right direction. And if you're on board, and if you are able to send statewide messaging and help push the message, and that's going to cost money, I'm happy to donate to your organization to help cover that cost and move the mission forward. So that's really, from the financial side of it, is kind of in a nutshell what my intent and purpose is behind that.
That's good. So, when you just served your first term in the legislature. So,
Mhm.
what would you say to the average person that they don't realize what's going on? I know in Oklahoma, you may not be aware. I don't remember if I told you or not, but we have people watching all of the committee brigades. So, all of the House committee, all the Senate committees, we have different people that watch, and then we get together once a week and say, "Hey, what's going on in the committees?" Because I know a lot of the tomfoolery happens there.
Mhm.
But what are you seeing in what can you tell the average person that is not involved? What is happening at the Capitol?
There are so many layers to the process, where things can get hung up, or they can kind of quietly die a death that people don't realize is happening. So from the point of preparing legislation, and then those bills getting assigned to committees, if they get assigned, once they're assigned, do they get heard? If they do get heard, what is the vote and discussion in committee? So there's a lot of moving parts to the whole process, and obviously, in a lot of ways, we don't want creating new laws to be an extremely fast and easy process. So I understand that, but what you guys are doing with following things as they progress through committees is so critically important, because you get a lot of nuggets and good information there on who's speaking up and how they're talking for or against that particular bill in committees, which all of that is live streamed and recorded and available for people to go and look at. But many of the people in that building, they understand that there's only less than 1% of the populace that's actually going to do that. That's actually going to watch and try to hold them accountable to it. So I said this the other day, it's a numbers game, and it's a time frame and kind of stamina game. They know that less than 1% is actually going to pay attention. And for those that do pay attention, they just have to outlast and have more stamina to kind of ride out the storm anytime the issues rile up, or people get fed up enough. They just have to outlast it, and that's it. And so that's the reality inside that building, and the general kind of mentality that a lot of people down there have.
So this is what I would say to you watching, because in Oklahoma we have figured out a way to have more numbers watching is through the brigades. So we've talked about how with the committee brigades in your community, how you have one person at the school board, one person at the city council, county commissioner, and then you come back and you talk about it, and then you talk to other counties or other communities so that you can be effective and you can share information. But now we're doing it at the statewide level. So when we have somebody watching these the legislative committees. We get back, we talk once a week, we have a regularly scheduled meeting, and then we put it into all of our grassroots chats. This is what's happening. So now we're arming the entire army and we're keeping them informed. You can get this set up in any state and we will help you. Go to freedombrigades.com. Let us know that's what you're interested in. That is how the people take it back, is we understand we're at war and we have war strategy. It's a divide and conquer, and then coming together to see how we can work together. But you have to put a man at every post. It's the only way we're going to win. There's so many different ways they're coming in.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
Yeah, and I've seen the stamina thing is so important. Like, in my community, we've been fighting back for 3 years, and I see that year after year, they realize, oh, no one's disappearing from this fight. Like, there are people in these rooms watching how we vote every time. That information is going to get to the voters when the next election comes around. And once you start to do that, not just one cycle, but 2 or 3, the whole atmosphere starts to change, because they can't disregard you. They can't just mock you for when their mic is on and your mic is off. They have to think about the results of those votes, because voters do come to ballot boxes, and those voters in Oklahoma, if they're educated, they will vote conservatively, because that's why we're here. That's why we're in this state, because we want those values.
1,000% agree. And that's why I think, last year we saw a number of incumbents get knocked out, because people are like, hey, we've been watching, we've been, being not only intentionally, interested but involved in the process, and we're seeing what you're doing and it doesn't line up with how you campaign. And so here we go, so that I think more and more people are doing what you're saying, and we're going to see more of that potentially.
And you're getting pushed back because you're showing us the difference in a legislator who is there for the people and a legislator who's there for the lobbyists. And you're there for those 99% who maybe aren't speaking out in such a way. And so it's no shock to me that you're getting pushback from all around, because you are breaking the mold.
Thank you for that. And honestly, it was a huge part of my campaign promise to my district was, I can't promise outcomes, but I'll promise you effort and transparency. And you're going to know what I'm doing and when I'm doing it and how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. And anything else that's happening in the Capitol that you guys need to be aware of, because that's your building. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and how I see it. So I have no qualms with that. And that's absolutely how I'm going to continue to operate.
That's awesome.
And Kendra, just real quick before I forget, you were asking about that case. It is Chamber of Commerce versus Whiting in 2011. Supreme Court upheld Arizona's law requiring E-Verify.
I found it. I threw it in the chat. So that's why
All right.
I was curious of the difference of the two. So thank you very much for that.
You bet.
Thank you for looking that up, guys. Well, so Jim, can other states that maybe want to copy what we're doing here, because the grassroots have to come together, and you guys can do this on your own. I encourage you to do it on your own with watching the legislative brigades. But if you do it through the Freedom Brigades, then you can talk to other states and we can help each other and strategize and collaborate and just share information. Sometimes stuff that worked, Glenn in California is constantly saying, yeah, this is where this is going. That's where it starts. And so I'm just and sometimes they'll say this worked here, this didn't work here. And so that collaboration is really important. And that's why I ask that people do it through the brigades. It's free to join. This is just about organizing we the people to take back the country. But do you have a website for this Save Oklahoma plan?
It is. It's literally just saveoklahomaplan.com. And so
Okay.
the 7 items and kind of the overall mission and purpose is stated there. There's a sign up form where if you want to get involved or kind of subscribe to the plan and say you're on board, there is the ability to do that. But yeah, I would encourage other states that are interested in doing the same thing to, get together and come up with, a fairly succinct list of issues that are important to you guys, and make the issues very specific to those that the lobby and special interests are very actively fighting. Because a primary purpose, the main purpose is to win on the issue. A side benefit is that you're creating a very clear dividing line on who is actually working for the people versus who is actually working for lobby and special interests. If you find those issues and those policy items that special interest is fighting, you will begin to separate pretty quick.
Very good. Well, Jim, thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to serve in Oklahoma alongside you and Kendra and Sarah. God has quite the army in Oklahoma right now, and it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. You guys, you have to save your community to save the republic. We are at war. So, like Representative Shaw was saying, they're going to put their money where their mouth is. You need to be mindful with your money. Where you spend your money matters. When you put stuff in the big box stores, not only do you fund the enemy, but the enemy is killing you, because all of those products are to harm you, right? Everything from the deodorant to the food has crap in it that is killing you. It just is. And so if you will buy from Patriots, we have several options at freedombrigades.com. You can go to tomrenz.com. I also suggest going to Free America. What's Clay Clark's website? I think it's Free America. He has even more on than I do. But we need to be purposeful with our dollars and buying from Patriots, because you're going to get a better product that is from healthy ingredients. And not only that, you are going to stop funding your own slavery. So you guys, thank you for joining the Freedom Brigades, and we will see you next week.
Thank you all very much.
Bye.